What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I host the only online show in the world that is for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Care, also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And finally, I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative. It's a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora who are doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on May 22nd, and it's around that 9 o'clock Eastern time. So you know it's Staggers State of Things time. So I'm not the star of the show. Let me bring the stars of the show on. There they are. They're the stars of the show. Jill, Aisha, how are you?
Good.
Good. How's
Very
the week
good.
been? How's the week been?
For me, okay.
Yeah.
A challenge.
Yeah, I can understand. And look, you know what's a beautiful thing? There was a time when we did this that we didn't know if anyone was watching us. And now, once we come on, there are people in the house. Good evening, Chris. How we doing? Oh, Natalia Bailey. I haven't seen you chime in before. Usually during my morning conversations, I hear you. And then Jan Myers. So welcome, family. How we doing? Hope you're doing okay wherever you are. And we've got another packed house of commentary tonight, and we're looking forward to it. And you know what? Let's just start. Really, let's just start. So let's get at it. First conversation piece. There's finally a ceasefire in the Israeli-Gaza-Palestinian conflict that has happened. Will it last? That's a whole other conversation. But ladies, what are your thoughts on the ceasefire so far?
Well, this is something that it will be temporary. I mean, eventually they'll get to fighting again, and Israel will likely come down on the Palestinians again. It's a cycle that unless there is some permanent solution, we know we're going to be here again soon.
My fault there. On mute for a second. Sorry, folks. No, Jill, do you think that's your sentiment? That's only a temporary thing, and we're going to see war again?
I think it's temporary. I mean, as we got to see, they actually went in for the mosque. I'm having light issues today.
Okay.
They had they attacked people on their way to the mosques on Friday. So I don't know what if any of these people can be relied upon to keep their word, essentially. Not sure.
What is it going to take to resolve this? Like, this conflict has been going on longer than any of us have been alive.
Well, this is a lot like you look at the United States, right? You have Native Americans still fighting to keep their own land. You have a group of people who were there, and then another group of people came and want to claim their land. And so as long as there's a feeling that these are uninvited guests, on one hand, the Palestinians are going to feel like they've been slighted. And on the other side, the Israelis feel like they're in power and they should have the ultimate say. So you're not going to really get to the heart of the matter unless some kind of other national, worldly, global council or organization really intervenes to make peace between the two.
Will it take? Could we ever see the day American troops go in there?
No,
I don't think so. Again, we're still in Afghanistan and
exactly.
In Iraq and all of that. And but here's the one thing the United States can do, and I think it's a temporary Band-Aid, but it might hold, is to, pull back on our funding.
That's it. Walking a tightrope there.
I know.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think that we aren't going to see anything like that for a while, but also until the powers are shifting, as we know with Europe, and different alliances might be emerging, and China's involvement. I don't know. I think right now everybody's kind of sitting back and determining and reflecting on their past relationships. Their biggest problem is that, we fund, as Americans, we're funding the Israelis, and a lot of other countries are as well. I mean, that's Germany and all of these places, Germany giving them their reparations. But I do feel that that's going to change somehow, if not with our latest, progressives in the House who have clearly shown that they do not like this and they don't want any more funding for Israel with guns, etc. I think that, I read an article the other day that the younger generation, even Gen Z, younger ones who are like 16, have formed different groups right now, and they're not happy with the Democrats or the Republicans, and they see themselves more as progressives. So when these younger people rise up and they consider themselves activists as well, I think there's going to be some real changes in those voting booths. And I think that's part and parcel why Republicans are just getting everybody on lockdown so that they can try to sew up what they want, because the younger generations are not going for it. It may take a few, but maybe in the next decade, there's going to be a major shift in that region.
Well, hashtag Jill Jones strobe light, by the way.
I know. Sorry. It's this thing, I bought it and I think I'm going to take it back. I don't know how to work it.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I think that this has been an albatross around America's neck for years.
Absolutely.
And our biggest problem is that sometimes we don't know how to choose our allies. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And we have to stop giving money frivolously to foreign entities who are doing bad deeds, and then we have issues giving money to our own people so they don't starve.
You were reading my mind again. I'm going to follow the money and the military deals that are involved.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And part of it also is that because Israel offers that citizenship, dual citizenship, to people who, if you're Jewish, you can always live there. Basically, you have those funds going over as well to help fund a lot of things that are going, particularly in the courts against the Palestinians who are trying to fight for their land. So it's not clear. There's no clarity for many of us who've grown up with this concept since we were children. And now everybody is kind of like going, hey, put the brakes on. What are we giving you the money for? And what are you doing for us? I mean, this, especially when they can't even get rid of Netanyahu.
Yeah.
It's like, I think there's a problem with funding someone who's corrupt and only uses the money as more of a lifeline to stay in office, when many of the Israeli people, they too want him gone. So he sort of named himself dictator in chief. And I think that, like I said, I think there is some kind of movement in that area to put the brakes on. How much money are we giving you? It's kind of like, the child support that never ends.
And
but it's fitting because the country hasn't grown up, right?
Yeah. And we had 4 years of a president that basically bent over for Netanyahu. And so they were very much alike in terms of their leadership. Here we are, a democracy, and we're basically funding a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And we have our own people in our own country who are, need the resources more than Israel does, frankly,
Absolutely.
from us.
Chris is saying, to see and hear the true hurt and frustration in the situation, watch and listen to Ayman Mohid. I'm going to probably get this name right. Thank you. Reports on MSNBC. You can feel his sorrow in that the U.S. sides with Israel re Gaza.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's you can hear that, and it's the same old okie doke just isn't really applicable anymore. And I think that if you go online, you will see there are numerous people constantly wanting this to be sort of investigated and revised and revisited, because if they're not going to move forward with ways to change it, and I'm not saying the Palestinian with Hamas representing them, we spoke about this last week, I mean, or taking a position, they don't represent entirely how every Palestinian feels. I just think that, by now everybody should know that it's not good to use these people as barters and like just caught in the middle of this. And, it's unbelievable, because for me, they said there was a ceasefire. And for me, the bad man in the group this week was Israel for attacking people who were headed off to their mosques. That's how it started in the first damn place. So it's kind of like, stop it. Just stop. It's too much.
Yeah. And I think that had we not had the kind of reckoning that we had in this country last summer with all the protests, that the shift in ideas towards Israel on this particular point probably wouldn't have happened the way it's happening. You wouldn't see people saying, look, this is wrong. This is a humanitarian issue. And we have to start looking at the people who are being disenfranchised and being attacked, losing their homes. These people actually count. And what is Israel doing to these people? And how is it provoked? We actually have the citizens on the street asking the questions, doing their own investigation this time, right, and not taking the word of the government as, gospel. And I think that couldn't have come without the moment that we have that started last year.
Right. And the United Nations needs to get their thumbs out of their behinds and deal with this, because we have an opportunity as people to have what we seek. It's never been created. There's no model for these idiot gray men who only see, let's go in a circle and let's keep everything in a circle and let's be like we used to be. And the problem with that is there's no progress with that. All you're trying to figure out is how to get more money from your citizens. But the reality is now people are demanding, they want better lives. And we also want to see our neighbors and our friends have better lives as well, too. That's just a normal, healthy person would think that for everybody, because anybody who's raised children knows that discord coming in that capacity, is rooted in something very deep, and it goes beyond religion. This is beyond religion. It's just brutal hate, because I don't see none of them being religious, in my opinion. There's religiosity. It's just a veil. It's a foil, and no, I'm not down with that. And I don't think many forward-thinking people are. We're tired of it,
Question I heard in the media brought up in the last week or two about this situation. Is the Palestinian situation, does it have any remnants of what Black Lives Matter is protesting against, injustice? Any similarities at all in the Palestinian cause to what Black Lives Matter or Blacks in America, North America, are fighting against?
Well, yeah, I mean, They're asking not to live under a police state, essentially. And that's what Black people in America are asking for.
Okay.
And this is why I feel that their holy wars, everybody who is oppressing people always claims about they're in constant threat or in danger of. But the reality is that, is it similar on many, many levels? It's similar just because they're the same tribe, basically. I mean, so I don't get it. But then within that, there's the hierarchy, which we've spoken about in the African diaspora as well. We have our own inner hierarchies. So in that capacity, there's always somebody who's willing to stand in for another person's oppression. And it will be the people who come from these own groups. There's always a sellout in the bunch. It's so crazy that religion is being weaponized, and it's being weaponized here, and it's being weaponized there. And, you know, it's just truly pretty diabolical. And then you have this whole thing of, in a sense, they're taking the position that they are, like white supremacists here take the position of chivalry, and it's our duty, and we're going to defend. That's the white man's conversation, defend. That's, you know, why all those guys showed up before the George Floyd protests, when we had in the Carolinas. Where was it? Where the
Charlottesville.
Right, in Charlottesville. So we have the Viking mentality. We have the myths. These are all very, very key words of keeping brown people down. It's just very, very basic. And they always use this jargon that they're defending their position. And those are kind of dog whistles, because they do it here too. Always defending, I'll defend my home, I'll defend my whatever. And for some reason, that gets interpreted as, you know, chivalrous and valor, and it's your response, courageous. But when brown people do the same thing, or Black people, it's criminal. So on that level, it's the same, because for some reason, brown people and Black people are always depicted as, what you do is criminal, but what I do is chivalrous. So we got to stop that, and we've got to call it out, because first of all, the Vikings weren't really Vikings. It was for travelers. I don't know, these people watch too much damn TV, these symbols, all of it. It's time to educate. And I know it hurts people to wake up and realize, I've been lied to. It's like you live with somebody who has a different name. But it's time, because you cannot cherry pick the past. What happened in Israel with Palestine, there's a problem with how it jumped off in the first place. Simple as that. And when you don't, you know, you can't make money off of people like that, because in a really weird way, they are making money. We give them a lot of weapons where they trade them and sell them back to somebody else. So it becomes this bartering, and that's where those people's lives, however invaluable they think they are very valuable to them, because they use that, you know, they're going to bomb us, they're going to kill us. I mean, Israel has crazy weapons. I read a couple of years ago, the Germans gave them two submarines that each were worth $8 billion.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even think Germany they had to give them, and they wanted 2 more. So we have a really big problem with this, and the fact that there are people who can live in both countries like that and move their money all over the globe. Mm-hmm. That's a problem.
Yeah, I think that doesn't make any sense. It's like the only allowance for dual citizenship this country allows people to have is with Israel. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Let's get to some comments here. Black Beauty, seems to me, because of the close relationship America's always had with Israel, makes it hard for America to put distance between the leadership of Israel.
Yeah.
Chris is saying exactly, Jill. After 200 years, it's high time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think the ones, like I said, with the younger generations who clearly have no allegiance, who they want to indoctrinate them as quickly as possible. But you're dealing with a generation that, even though you may not understand these new pronouns, he, she, they, whatever, you need to take notice of the fact that it's a new regime that'll be coming in. And when you're 80 years old sitting somewhere, you're going to be told to call your nurse they and not her. So just get used to what's coming and accept some of this, because you're not going to change it. And we're dealing with a more openness, however, a very touch and go one, but even that will evolve. So we need to, deal with this.
Yeah, because when these younger people come up and start running things, they're going to be cutting off a lot of our ties.
Hell yeah,
some of these,
absolutely.
With these countries that are so duplicitous like this.
And they should. Mm-hmm. They should. They're making new alliances. They're marrying new people. They have new dynamics that have opened their eyes to whatever. It won't be so cool to just be coming over from Russia and having anchor babies. By the way, they've been making so many anchor babies here in America. It's crazy during the whole Trump regime. So a lot of it is going to change at some point. I don't know how much we'll see, but when leadership changes, those relationships change.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next conversation piece. New York's probe into 45's organization is now a criminal inquiry. We were wondering what was Letitia James up to. I guess she took some time off of her governor of her state to go back on the 45. What significance is this, ladies? It's a
criminal inquiry. That's the significance. It's not civil. It's criminal. She's looking into high crimes and misdemeanors that he not only did he perpetuate while he was in office, but even prior to running for president, while he was just a New York citizen. And it also incorporates the business of his children. So that's another distinction with this. So that whole family is going to go down in some way.
Jill?
Well, once they got Alan Weiselberg, his accountant guy, and he's been around forever, and he's 74, and I don't think he wants to be sitting in jail for all the tax evasion or whatever, however they rigged it, because we know that Trump will throw him under the bus and be like, well, he did the taxes. What do I know? And, it's going to be very interesting, because that's only what we do know. The biggest part of this coming out with the criminal, the claim of it being a criminal investigation, what's really interesting is that, typically the courts, with what she was doing, which I didn't really know this before, they're enforcing the Martin Act right now, which is when the tides change. When you go in with a reasonable civil court case and you're looking, and then the judge or whoever has the right at that moment to turn it into civil. Because sometimes you think, like in civil courts, how come you just get a fine? You just get slapped on the wrist and whatever. But flipping it like this was really, the media should have always been talking about this. It kind of pisses me off a little that all of these MSM people, mainstream media, they're all lawyers too, right? But why weren't they talking about it? There was a story right there to say, now if they go and make this a criminal case, because it's there. But if you hear all these pundits talking, you will realize just how they finesse the legal system here. And a law never seems to be a law, seems to be a law. It's so bizarre, and everybody's interpretation is too loosey-goosey for me. But I do believe that once she said criminal, they are sure with some evidence. And like Aisha said, it will affect people in his family, because, and it's about time, because I think the people really would love to see justice on the sense that if this man gets away with all of this, guys, it really says a lot about faith and about what you're believing in and karma or whatever, because then you want that justice because you want to know that the universe works, that the universe has checks and balances. And what I feel is really happening with the morale in the country is that we don't feel that the universe has its checks and balances other than, a disaster or catastrophe. But we're not getting that. And I think if you say any prayers, you pray for the checks and balances because people need that in order to keep going, just little signs here and there. So hopefully they get him.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to, the various criminal aspects, they have some very blatant things that were criminal, like the taking of the paintings. That they did that was illegal.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
true.
They could not do that.
The Lincoln bust.
They did things like commissioning waterfalls and decorations for the Trump Center using donated funds.
And he stole from that guy's house, the ambassador in France, Paris. Exactly. He took his paintings.
Exactly. So they did some things that were blatant. Okay,
ratchet.
Exactly.
It's not even criminal. It's just some ratchet shit. That's all that she should have said. This is the most ratchet ass president we've ever had. Ever.
Family. Because you got
the whole family.
You got the ex-wife or the son sleeping with the Secret Service guy, and the daughter sleeping with her Secret.
Can you blame her? Can you blame her? Really? Girls got to do what a girl's got to do.
Now, Tiffany Trump's engaged to, I guess, the Secret Service guy that was taking care of her. And
boy, the Secret Service, were these women like Mata Hari up on these men? Because they sure did get the allegiance of the Secret Service as well, which is a little frightening too.
Oh, well, Chris is saying, how I love Ms. James. She does not play. Well, we were getting, Aisha and Joe were getting a little concerned about Ms. James, saying that she was like she had disappeared and gotten a little coy, but it always seems when she's quiet, that's when she's the most dangerous.
Yeah, she got us all tied up with Cuomo. I was like,
you know what?
You
know what that was? That was a red herring.
Interesting.
Cuomo was to go in that direction that Trump wanted her to go in, focus on Cuomo. Then she hit him with a rope-a-dope.
Right.
Chris is also saying Michael Cohen seems certain that 45 will not hesitate to throw his demon offspring under the bus once the water starts rising. Thoughts?
You don't like him anyway.
Yeah, I know. He's incredibly competitive. He's destroyed his sons. He's destroyed his children, except for the blonde girl.
He wants to date his daughter.
Right.
And so it's like, he'll throw her under the bus too, if he has to.
But these are like characters in films that you watch or in books, that literature, and the father. It's like what his dad did to him, he has done to his children. That's
this
it.
Is like Love and Hip Hop. This is Love and Politics, New York.
Mm-hmm. True.
It's almost like how they have the Real Housewives franchise. They have Real Politics franchise, New York style, right?
Yeah.
For people who are watching this live on the replay, there is Letitia James, the lady who is leading the charge against the 45's organization. Very.
She's not to be messed with.
No.
It's like, and somebody asked the question on Twitter. It's really odd how the GOP hasn't gone after her.
Right.
Yet.
Interesting.
Because she knows all their business.
That's very, you know what? Aisha, excellent point.
They all have ties to Trump. And she has been able to connect all those dots.
Okay.
They don't want their name. They don't want their name in this criminal inquiry. Right? They just don't.
Okay, it's a great point.
She knows exactly all the ins and outs of why these people were such sycophants for Trump. Okay, because we have been wondering all this time, like, why are they just tripping over this man? They know he's dumb as shit. Why are they tripping over this man? We couldn't figure it out. So clearly she knows what she clearly
But I
knows.
think that once she got a hold of Lev Parnas, and I think he's been singing like a bird, and he's singing for generations because he worked with the father. And I also feel that there's just some shady stuff because of that. And not only, well, you had the Mueller report, which had things that were already setting up Vance and them to go into a direction of finding stuff. And once you bring in a forensic accountants, it's I
TikTok,
said that's
TikTok,
very TikTok.
And we're not talking the software. We're not talking
and
the
if
app.
you don't have the receipts or your friend wrote the check, you got to have all of it. It's not even funny because these forensic accountants weren't just looking at money. They've been looking at the operating agreements and how those companies have been established, dissolved, brought back up. This one is why the managing director of one, why you can't go after him. All of that. For me, if she's saying it's a criminal investigation, they found a way in.
Yeah.
They found a missing link.
She does not appear to be the type of person that would come out with that unless she has something solid to go on.
True.
Unless she's almost ready for trial.
I mean, yeah, there's a team of people because Vance is supposed to retire at the end of the year.
Yes, exactly. There's a time count on this.
And I want to also say that I think that at one point I had said, well, maybe they're not going to deal with Trump until right before the election, but they can't based upon what they are doing right now. The Republicans are going after every state. They're going after local state government, asking for recalls. We got another recall for some of our other state councilmen to be removed. And these are the lowest tiers of legislation, but they want to nip it in the bud very early on.
Well,
and I'm like,
midterms.
Yeah, but
it's not the presidential election is it's the midterms that they're focusing their energies on.
Well, because Mr. McConnell wants back in power. And the fact of the matter is that they're not going to be able to get that. They're not doing anything, and it's very obvious that they're not doing anything, that they're like digging their heels in. And you got to remember that even though some of these laws have come to pass, the fact remains that there were over 85 million people that said no more. And that was more than the people that came out for them.
Right.
Well, but remember, the Republicans are trying to, for lack of a better term, shrink in the game. They're trying to get less and less people eligible to vote, and they're finding their ways to do it.
And that's why.
But these organizations like like Stacey Abrams' organization and Tasha Brown's organization, they expected this, so they kind of have a game plan ready for it, because they, here's the one thing I have to say is that the black voters, the organizations that have done a lot of that voting, a lot of the organizations that rile up the Latino vote and the Asian vote have been 3 steps ahead of the game ever since they knew they had to get Trump and McConnell out. And I think that they whatever infrastructure that they built to do so and to stay ahead of the game, they only enhanced it, knowing that this is going to come.
Yeah, but I don't think that Trump and the GOP are going to use the same strategy going into the next one. I don't think they're going to go, let's do Iowa, Wisconsin, Atlanta. This is all, it's other places. And those are the other places we have to focus on too. It's not just Stacey Abrams' thing. They don't give a damn.
No.
It's what's happening in California. I'm telling you, they are eroding different regions and they're very specific. And because we have certain things where you can recall after a certain amounts of people sign. The election is next year. The fact that they're unwilling to wait, that is a red flag to me. Because why are we spending $100 million or whatever it's going to cost us to get Newsom out when you could do it next year? Well, he won't be on the ballot in November. That's the big difference. So all the money that we're giving now, the fight is now, not later. If they get a Republican sitting here, all the laws that are in California, it doesn't matter how many of us are Democrats, they will screw us and they will take over. And this state is a gem to get a hold of. This is the state.
That's what they want to get a hold of, because
they want California.
If they get California, all the ones they were fighting over last week,
who cares?
That's
because we've got Devin Nunes here and we've got Kevin McCarthy here, two of the most evil bastards alive, and they need to be gone. But the craziest thing of all, they even convinced the Asian people down in Orange County to support their bullshit, who we now have told, you're out. The next go round, young Kim, you're gone. She's one who stands in for the oppression of her own people. That's what they do. And they want people like that. That's what Tim Scott is. He's a stand-in for the oppression of his own people. We've had them before, but people need to give money to Governor Newsom to fight this, because this is not funny, because you can already see how they're carving out stuff. And Nunes proposed something the other day, and I've forgotten what it was. These are not erroneous statements. They're very, very clear about this dissection that they're doing. Very clear.
That's why I think that, the Democrats have been talking this 50-state strategy for a minute. And that's why I think that they're better prepared than what people think going into not just this next midterm, but this next voting season period, to get out and slowly move out, not slowly, but move out some of the state legislators and replace some governors. I really think that they have mapped that 50-state strategy out, and that's what they're going to focus on, because they know that the only way that they win on the federal level is to win at the state level. And that affects the voting, the voting laws. Of course, I think we took our eyes off the ball because Trump was so bad. And there was a dire need to get him out the way before he did some real damage to the democracy. And we saw that on January 6th, that he was a serious threat to the democracy.
But if I look from where I sit, if you're in the Democratic Party, you got to keep the pressure on.
I agree.
Just because 45 is out, he got his people working it. He doesn't have to be physically there to exalt his power. And we'll come up. The next story we have coming up will certainly show what's going on. But I think that, and I think, well, Chris is saying yes, and Miss James does need to move ahead. Midterms will be here soon. And Cinema Canella, good evening. I think the Republicans are winning. Why are they not waiting until next year's midterms? They're doing it now. They're fighting their war now.
They
Republicans.
The Civil War has begun, and everybody needs to deal with it. The fact that people are lounging around in their house slippers while people are auditing this crap, and these are people who had nothing to do with the election, third parties, there are no words for that. I see identity theft coming along down the pipeline for people. I see all sorts of stuff coming, and people getting screwed because they've got your information. Now, whether if it's going to work to exonerate Trump, or is it compiling a list of some sort, or C, are they just going to make money off of you by selling your data to people? That happens too. So, sell it to Russia, sell it to anybody. These are things that are not really great. And the fact that there's not one local judge who's able to stop it, I don't even know how our government works anymore. I'm like, how does this work? How does this work? He put in 900 and he did it. Yeah, exactly.
But one thing that was interesting that I did see on the news tonight was that the Secretary of State of Arizona said, well, guess what? The voting machines that they quote unquote audited, she said, we're throwing those out. They can't be trusted.
But how much expense of that is going to go to the taxpayers? Why the hell should I have to pay for it, or you or anybody else? See, for me, if they do that stuff here in California, we're going to have a real problem, because I'm going to show up and go, give me my shit and fuck off, because that's not cool to me. It's not cool. I have a thing about technology and the invasiveness of it, let alone a bunch of crackers going through my shit.
Yeah, they're really trying it, and they're trying it. They know where to try it and where not to try it. Georgia's going to be interesting because that's their next mark.
I don't think they even care about Georgia.
No, they don't, but that's their next mark.
It's all for show. The fact is, who's paying for this? Where's the money? The worst thing both parties ever did was to make sure they had those super PACs. And for me, that's the problem. And if they want to shut it down, but they're afraid to because it affects how they get money. But here's the reality. Shut it down. Just reset. You want to reset? Reset that shit. Stop telling us to reset. You reset the politics. Put the brakes on it. All of it. You know, like when you overdraft your account and you just go, hang on a minute. That's what I want. I want to stop it for a minute, because what was going on in the pandemic, he was moving and grooving, and he put tons of money away for himself.
Yeah. And not only that, but he had since been fundraising off of this big lie, you know, and people are willing to give him the money. Stupid people are still giving him.
It's a murderous lie. It's not even a big lie. They need to call it what it is. It's a murderous lie, because people died. They were murdered because of that lie. Mm-hmm. They were murdered. And no one in this country seems to give a damn. Not enough to really get up and go, you know what? I'm the Attorney General of the United States. Pick them up. You know, I don't know. Find a law. Maybe it's beneath the dignity. These other goons, what were they doing the whole time? Crap, everybody was like going, I've never seen this happen before. What's going on?
So let's transition. That leads into our next conversation piece. But let me just get what Chris says here. Dems need to start trying to touch dance with the Republicans and get things done now. If Republicans control the House and Senate, their knees would be on our necks. Time to stop the soft pedal.
Yep.
Yeah. I think at this point, Joe Biden has tried. The Democrats have tried.
He's got to give it up.
They tried the whole bipartisanship. Now you see where they stand. Mitch McConnell told you he's going to block everything. Why are you still trying to do bipartisanship with people who aren't bipartisan?
Right. It's like, why are you trying to date somebody who's not into you? They're just not that into you. Move on. Go. The Democrats look like a bunch of dumbasses. It's like, stop it. Just stop it. Go about your business.
Get it done.
You know, when you get your stuff done, then people come back around. But you don't sit up there and sniff in their butts.
Yep.
Oh, they're going to come around. It's time to be like, they're just not that into us.
They're not going to come around. We're going to do all of this by reconciliation and stick the filibuster in the reconciliation and then shut them up for good.
Absolutely. It's
all right,
just too much for me.
Let's move on.
You know.
Oh, look at this. Chris is saying, I'm waiting to see Jill throw the lamp across the room. LOL.
I am. I'm lighting a candle right now. I think I'm going to light another one.
Okay, next conversation piece. January 6th commission vote. Prospects are bleak that 10 Republicans will buck Mitch McConnell.
They want him gone.
Who?
Mitch McConnell. They want him gone.
He ain't going nowhere, Jill.
But I mean, I know he's not, but they want him. He's being used for now. They're going, even if I don't know. I don't think he has as much power as he thinks he used to.
No, he doesn't. It always makes me laugh when he's like, we're gonna do this and we're not going to do this. And it's like, Mitch McConnell, you're not in control of the Senate anymore.
Yeah.
So you saying that you're not gonna do X, Y, and Z, yeah, only people in power can say that.
But what's interesting about him, and I kind of like dig it, even though I hate his guts, he acts like he's still in power.
Yep.
And that's the big difference between him and Chuck Schumer. I can't get with Chuck. He's too much of a car salesman for me. And he needs to do something. He's always trying to be very nice to everyone. I'm going to like everybody sit down and have some noodles or whatever we're eating, you know, and then we're all going to talk about it. I'm not going to go there. You know, it's like.
That is your voice on the Kiss extended.
It is.
So this commission, it's not going to happen.
I think the commission's going to happen.
Where?
I think it is. I think that you will. Well, I think that you'll get the tie and Kamala will break. Maybe. No, they've got to have the
plus 10.
That's why they. You know what? That's why they need to throw that filibuster.
It's not going to happen
in the reconciliation
Can
budget.
it happen at the House level, but not at the Senate
level?
Well,
the House already passed.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, the House already passed with 35 Republicans,
right?
Which 45 did not have too many kind words to say about.
But I don't think that they need to do a big investigation other than calling in General Honore. Call in, don't invite them. Just go, what did you discover? And who when you subpoenaed what's the man from Kevin McCarthy's phone, who was he talking to? They have to create the case, whether the people are there or not. I'm sorry. They have to do it. And they have to tell us what they've discovered. Yeah. Now, if the Republicans want to, and if there are more questions after that, then that's on the Republicans to own up and answer them. But the reality is we need to hear what happened, and we need to give the Capitol Police the respect to be able to come forward and show their side of it. We need to know why the other head of the Capitol Police, why did he resign? And get people's phone records. But, you know, damn, it seems like they just can't seem to even tie their shoes. It's really incredibly embarrassing, incredibly so, that that even the FBI is starting to look like mofos. I'm sorry. They just look like they're not competent. And there's something that has to come across to I want to know what happened. I want to know, where was Trump that day? I don't care if you have to find somebody who had a camera and they knew he went and got a chili dog. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know I want to know so much. I want to know what kind of fucking toilet paper that bitch uses.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't stand him if he uses any at all. He probably leans around and licks his ass himself.
Oh, gosh.
Like a dog.
I
honestly can't take Donald Trump, and it's time. If they won't drag him out, then we, the people, demand that we hear what's going on. That's it. We have to do something.
I want to know more about those tours. You know, instead of calling the insurrection a tourist attraction, I want to know about those actual tours that were given by Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and their homies in the House, because there had to be some kind of information dig on the part of those people who rushed the building.
Absolutely. I hope so.
Because they knew how to get in. Mm-hmm. They knew the windows to scale. They knew where all the doors were.
Right.
And not only that, but somebody knew how to put a bomb in both.
And they still don't know how to find that person, which shows you that our infrastructure is definitely a lot like Hong Kong. Hong Kong has the ID facial recognition that can do you through a mask and even through a hoodie. That is no joke. So maybe it's time to, and let's not forget, people are looking to China for future things at this point. They just are, because no matter what you want to say about China, they're getting things done, and they're minding, they're doing whatever, and it's heinous and yes and whatever. But America has too many corrupt agencies, and I honestly don't know why there's nothing that can be done to get rid of them. You know, as they say, the call is coming from inside the house, and they're everywhere. And they want to paint those good citizens at the Capitol murdering people as chivalrous. They're courageous. They're loyalists. They're all of that.
They're patriots.
And that is what the equation is. But then they want to throw up, well, if we do an investigation of Black Lives Matter, they want to make Black Lives Matter, the boogeyman, a phrase for Antifa, which it was ridiculous when they were the ones doing the double take. Half of the people who were arrested for Antifa were Republicans or skinheads, not even skinheads, considering the skinheads, by the way, stole ska music from Black people. So they need to like chill out. Those were the original skinheads. So what we're going to go into is that we have a corrupt nation, and they're coordinated. They're coordinated, and then we need to know who's giving the messages, and we need to know, why is Marjorie Taylor Greene even out? Why is she able to go anywhere with her mouth? Why?
Right.
Okay, before you jump, Aisha, before you jump in, I'm just going to catch up with comments. Chris is saying, oddly enough, Kevin McCarthy seems to be afraid of old Mitch.
Yeah. Interesting.
Black Beauty is saying it is actually treason that these Republicans are engaging in. I'm not sure why it's not being called this. Why in God's name more Republican senators aren't leaving the party is beyond me. Chris says, oh, and Mr. Clyde saying that J6 looked like a tour. Did you see the pic of him barricading the door inside the House chamber? Nice how they treat tours, huh? Clyde, another POS.
Well, you know what kills me is that for some reason, all these Republicans seem to have forgotten how scared they were on January 6th, or because they know what their supporters are capable of now. They're even more scared.
That was the warning. We will chew you. We will kill you. That was the message. We will kill you. That was it. You're absolutely right. That was it.
Guess what? They don't know who these people are if they see them standing in the House chambers. They wouldn't know Marjorie Taylor Greene like that if they saw her. All they would know is that she was somebody that they were meant to kill. Mm-hmm. They only know her outside of it through all her propaganda worship stuff on TV, what they see on TV. But if they were to come across her in real life, she would have been gone.
Yeah.
You know who I'm going to bring up this name. You know who I'd love to hear testify?
Who?
I mentioned his name a few weeks ago. We don't hear nothing about him these days. The man
Bob Mueller?
No, the man that these patriots wanted to hang.
Oh, Mike Pence. Never. You're never going to.
No, Mike Pence is trying to figure out how to run for president.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's move on to our next conversation piece.
His own brother voted against the investigation, by the way.
So Massey and Green trash mask violation warnings from House. Sorry, sorry about that. Massey and Green trash mask violation warnings from House Sergeant at Arms. Aisha, you wanted to talk about this one. Go ahead.
I just thought it was funny that they got them and that the letters came and that, they were being fined $500 each. They're going to be fined $500 each time. And if they miss it again, then it'll be $2,500 each time that they do not wear a mask while on the House floor. Unless they are speaking.
Why can't they just lock the door on them?
All I hear is Marjorie Taylor Greene and Sarah Jane's voice from Imitation of Life. but I'm white. I'm white.
Oh.
I mean, why can't they just keep them out? You can't come in unless you have a mask on, and then escort them out. Why?
Makes
Why
sense.
is that so hard?
It makes sense to me, no matter like whatever political, if you're not abiding a law.
Yeah. I
It
mean,
makes sense to me
I can't
too.
even imagine what these people's children are like. This is how, I mean, my God, they don't even know how to discipline. I would lock the door, and if I needed to put a broom between the handles to keep it shut, I would. You can't come in here until you act right.
Obviously, I'm thinking the reason that they
And you're
haven't,
more than welcome to watch it on Zoom. That's the option.
the
Take it or
reason
leave
I'm
it.
guessing is that there's a law. There's some law that would be in violation for physically removing them. They would actually have to put it into the
You know what? This is
the
about health.
operation.
You know, I have
know.
to see this. Please show me. If that's the case, then my question is, show me the law. I mean, I'd like to see it. I'd like to know. Because 9 times out of 10, I think they all need to go back to school and get refreshed on what the laws are in there.
Well,
Because they're just like, you know.
Here's the thing. Nancy Pelosi put that in place, but she only put fining as the punishment. So that's the problem. Is the punishment wasn't what wasn't taken into consideration when deciding on what the punishment for that would be.
You mean this is the first
fact that
time they've ever had to tell people you can't come in with that attitude here, or you can't speak this way? This is the first time? I don't believe that.
No, it's not the first time, but when it comes to the mask mandate, this is the way to rectify that.
But I'm sure there's a rule. Obey the rules of what the Congress is. End of story. That blankets it all. You know, I don't know. Then Nancy fucked up then, because personally,
they've got a booklet on the rules of the House.
Then take everybody somewhere else to go and meet and leave them behind. You know, that's all I can say. You know, put them all back on Zoom. We will not go back in the chamber. We'll all Zoom. Yeah. We won't go in. That's it. If one doesn't do it, then none of us will.
Yeah.
All right. And we have Chris. Oh man, the more I see Ms. Green and her 45 loving repugnant cronies with diarrhea of the mouth, I feel like taking a carnival tour of barnyard oddities. Jeez.
True. She's a horrible cretin.
Wow.
Really?
Well, folks, we're gonna take a little quick break to give these ladies a break. As you see, they exert a little bit of energy.
I have to get a light.
All right. And so we're going to take a real quick break and we'll back in just a minute. So hang tight, folks.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here. What is up, everybody? It is Dr. Vibe here.
Just had an awesome experience. He is a really good interviewer.
The conversations that we have and the passion that he has for people and helping people.
So smoothly that you would have thought that we had known each other for years.
Big shout out to Dr. Vibes. I had the opportunity, the pleasure, and the privilege to join him last evening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And you can check out more great content like this on my website. Also follow me on social media. Remember, it's Dr. Vibe, the home of epic conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations. And remember, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourself grace. So we are back. Jill has more light. So we are good off. And something will just slip in here. So folks, we all three of us always have conversations after our epic conversations and how much we had a good time, but how much your support means to us. We are wanting to do something. We need your input. We would like to change the name of this show. And people are going, why? Well, the reason being is Jill's not a special guest anymore. Jill started, first of all, when we first started doing this, Aisha and I, way back, it was Staggers State of Things. And then one day she graciously brought in Jill Jones to be a special guest. Well, Jill has been a special guest for a long time now. So we had a conversation last week on upping the game of the show, so to speak. And one of the things we're wanting to do is change the name of the show. So I'm putting it here. We would like to get you to give us suggestions on what would you want to name the show. We need your takes. So you can email me at dr.vib at the Dr. Vibe Show, or DM me via Instagram at the Dr. Vibe Show. Oh, I've spelled it wrong. Let me get it. VIBE. I spelled it wrong. I'm human. Let me get it right. Get it right here. Just right here in real time. Show. Okay, that's better. So let's put it back up. Now, so you can DM me on Instagram, the Dr. Vibe Show, the DRVIBESHOW, or Twitter, DRVIBESHOW. So we would love your input on this. What could we get as a new name to the show? And I know with some of the people, I'm expecting to hear some responses from the regulars. We are expecting to hear. So that is one of the things we have planned for the near future, and we'd love to have your input on it. So just a little break. We'll run into this again at the end, but we just wanted to give a little break and come back for the second half. All right. And just before some comments before the break, I agree that they should be escorted out by security as well. How long is Congress supposed to tiptoe around these no mask wearing seditious Republicans? Okay, Black Beauty. And Cinema Canal says, yes, Jill is permanent. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me and making me permanent.
Well, you've been for a long time. Long time you've been permanent.
Almost 3 years now?
Yeah. Special guest for 3 years? Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, all right. All right. So let's get back to our conversation. And we're going to take a little bit of a different term. We're going to take a historical term. Many of us know how great an artist Marvin Gaye was and still is. And this past week celebrated the 50th anniversary of his classic album, What's Going On. And I just wanted to get Aisha and Jill's thoughts on the album, and especially a lot of the things that were said in that album are still unfortunately prevalent today.
Yeah.
Who'd like to start off first on that?
Well, first, acknowledge it also too that Rolling Stone has called it the greatest album of all time.
Wow.
It's in their, it's the number one of their top 600 albums, great albums of all time. I've spoken to a lot of people about this, people who at the time were there, people who have contributed to the album, including Vion Dantes, who sang backup on some of the songs about the significance of it and trying to just find the meaning of it and, what all he was going through. And the messages kind of in his experiences are very much parallel. And when you take that in context and you listen to the album, even now in this day and age, you realize that it never gets old. Thematically, it never gets old. It never ages. He talked about the environment in Mercy, Mercy Me, the ecology. He talked about war and civil rights in the title song. And then there were other songs that, he just really captured the essence of a moment of change. And here we are, particularly as Black people, in a moment of change. And this album still captures that same essence.
Jill, would like to add on?
Well, I'm in full agreement with Aisha, but, we're just, I was looking at all the track lists, the track names like Save the Children, God is Love, Mercy, Mercy Me, Holy, Holy, Inner City Blues, Makes Me Want to Holler, What's Happening, Brother, What's Going On. Flying High in the Friendly Sky. I think that it is still all very relevant. And I think that, this is what's so kind of disturbing about the screams of people were saying what we're saying today. people were upset about Israel. I think people were upset about different, about the climate, and it was all happening. It was still moving, but now it's reverberating. And I think because the apocalypse didn't come sooner, had it come sooner, then the Republicans would have been like, oh, well, yeah, you were right, I guess. But we'd all be dead. I think that I think he was completely inspired by this, but something bigger than Marvin, because he was such a gentle soul and so artistic and so sensitive. Sometimes things bigger than yourself come through to speak through to you. And I still think that we're still in that chamber and in that window of time for people to, be like, hey, wake up. What's so bad about why can't you care a little? Why don't you see what's happening? And the songs will never die. They will never age, because I think it came from pure heart, pure mind. And there is a resignation in a little bit that it's not going to change, in a very strange way. But that's the saddest part of all for me, because it has been, I grew up with this album, I remember family gatherings, and by the end of the night, this would be on, and, everybody would have their drink on too. And, a lot of thoughts, and I can still see certain family members' expressions. And I often think to myself, what were they revisiting? What horrors? Because if that was in the 60s and you have a bunch of Black people who grew up in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, there was a lot of pain that got released by listening to this album. And there was a solidarity that was felt when you hear it as an African American, as a Black person living in America. You felt united to something higher, even though, you just can't, and it was a warning too about the oppressors who choose to stand against their own kind, about what was happening in Vietnam. And because I think our group of people in America have always had a deep mistrust of the government for ages. This is nothing new. So it's easy to tap in. We still rise up to do our part and can become more involved. But this album, there's a reason it's still banging the way it does. Everybody gets it when they hear it.
And
Jen, go ahead. No, to Jen.
I think it's one of the most creative, most creative ways anyone has ever channeled pain. Here he's lost his friend who is his duet partner, right?
Yes.
And then he starts writing this beautiful, these beautiful songs that also, he pours all that pain of that into telling other stories that are equally painful, but have a sense of kind of optimism and hope that things could get better.
Just want to add on here, Jed Meyer saying, just as relevant today as it was then, more than any other album, in my opinion. Chris is saying, this album is absolutely timeless. A friend who sang with Marvin Gaye, Mr. Gaye, Paulette McWilliams, wrote a nice tribute about the album and working with him. Just beautiful. So,
I want to say something about creative people, because I knew Marvin. I, of course, knew Prince, as well as I consider another person who these types of artists are conduits of their empathy, and they're able to transmit, and they're the conduit, and they explain the pain, and they know how to word it so other people actually listen to it. Whether it can evoke mass change on a level, I'm not 100% sure, as much as somewhere it does erode and soften the heart, because for some reason God keeps some of these songs going and going, or Devi keeps these songs going. so that it's like an earworm, or it gets in your ear. The beautiful thing is that I don't think that, like Marvin was so gentle as a person, but still the burden of carrying and being this prophet, essentially, because it was prophetic. And for all of these artists who write this type of stuff, it's very hard on them. And the world is a very hard and cruel place for them. And so when you do see them write beautiful songs, you should really think about how they even got there, because they usually are taking in so much, because they're great observers of the human experience. And that could be why they're not here anymore, because maybe for a very long time now, we're on our own. As Prince said, in this life, you're on your own. And I sometimes feel that now, like the hand's gone, It's like you're on your own. You can't hide in my music or this one or that one, or you have to act. And your contribution has to be bigger than your job or what or the monetary, all of that. Just being here and speaking. But yeah, I often think of how sensitive these people really are. They're like angels manifested. Poets are the same, So for me, I'm always, when I see people who've create a big opening in the sky like this, I know they've been touched.
These songs are the songs of a movement and of a moment. And it just happens that the moment keeps happening over and over and over again. And that's why this album remains so significant, 50 years later. Like, it came out in 1971, and here it is in 2021, and it's just as relevant because the moment just doesn't end. It keeps happening. All the things that he spoke of, have been very cyclical. It's like kind of like Groundhog Day in America with the things that are going on. And so his album here is that soundtrack that helps get you through that moment and through to the next.
But here's the craziest part, when he's saying, "Oh, mercy, mercy me," that things ain't what they used to be. So it's like, where did all the blue skies go? Now, he wrote this when I was a child, and I'm thinking, was it that much better? It was tolerable. People learn their way through life, and certain things were tolerable, I suppose, especially for Black people, to, talk about things ain't what they used to be. Because all we've ever had as a community in America, aside from you have the horrors that went on, were those brief moments of get-togethers. And that's why I think we all just would party so hard, because in America, even then, you didn't know if you'd see them anymore if they left the house. Mm-hmm. They just go missing, and somebody would find them on a tree later. That was really, that was something. So when you put it all, it's like, wow, where did all the blue skies go? Like, yeah, where? So it was very, very profound. Yeah.
Some words we have here.
Donny Hathaway. Heck
Chris
yeah.
saying Marvin, Prince, Donny Hathaway, and others, what they conveyed and brought to the table, you do have to wonder what helped to create their incredible messages. Black beauty. As Americans, we are truly asking what's going on. And as well, that's going on in America sure does. Makes me want to holler. Marvin Gaye's songs are truly comforting still.
Yeah. Holler with it to my life.
Yes, yeah. I love, I have to say this. I love the way that Tina Marie had taken aspects of this album and littered her discography with different phrases from these songs, and that other artists have done the same thing.
Yeah.
And that has also helped the album to live on, because it's been so appreciated, and artists have either sampled or they've used the words, they've interpolated the words into some of their current works.
And what's so wild about, you mentioned Tina as well, another one touched with a gift that, I think they all know when their mission is up. There's indicators. They all have taken the baton in the race as far as they could go, and they're passing it off. And it's like, because this world really exhausts all of them. Prince was exhausted when I saw him. So was Tina. Like, you're just, with love, but it's like they've seen everything because they've always been looking at it from a different view. And it's like you've tried to make these people who are not racist, not, just trying to get in. And after a while, it's like, there's no hope for mankind, or it's time that we got to go. Marvin, the same,
Well, we have 2 more things to talk about tonight, but I think we should only talk about one of them, because I don't think what we're talking about here and then going to the cockroach would be
okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just ending off. So I think in light of what you've just shared, and the audience has just shared some of their thoughts about Marvin Gaye and 50 years ago, next week is the 1-year anniversary of the killing of George Floyd. So I thought it'd be best we end on this, because I'm going to the cockroach of this episode.
No.
So ladies and audience who's watching or live on the replay, 1 year.
Yeah.
What's changed?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, we found out that they did something pretty heinous to Ronald, Mr. Green in St. Louis, a 2-year cover-up, 1 year, and they cut the wound even deeper. Yeah. It's just serrated. The knife is just, it's not even a clean cut. It's such a jagged edge. And it's just, you just go, oh my God, what are we doing? What is happening?
Yeah.
When you really look at law enforcement, and it's beyond the amount of money that we pay in the settlements, but they actually on these videos are getting off like serial killers on these killings with these people. And that's disturbing to me. It's like, I think they probably go home and do some really weird stuff to their wives. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a bloodthirst in them. And I've seen it in crime dramas. And we've all read things about that kind of serial killers and the tactile stuff, all of it. And so to see that, and then George Floyd, it's like, but George was touched. He was touched for a reason, that he opened up the sky for us to get another opportunity and to really make some changes. And I believe some of us will, but we got to leave a lot of people behind.
Yeah. I think that with the awareness has also come an escalation in these activities. And, you also get to see how many people have kind of fallen off the rails of support in the last, 12 months, because I don't think that people whom this affects on a daily basis have given up the fight, but people who have the option of backing out, have taken some of that option, because I've heard people say, oh, it's just too much. It's too heavy. It's too exhausting. We'll try living it. This anniversary coming up, we couldn't get the George Floyd Act passed.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
We couldn't get individual police departments to change things. And what does this say about the sacrifice that was made, someone's life taken, and the protests that came out of that? Is that the people who are in power and in control are going to do everything they can to not be held accountable.
Because here's the problem. Why wasn't it included with the Asian hate crime bill? I mean,
Exactly.
The whole point here is, as Black people, I think we felt a little bit pooped on that part, because what, like all of a sudden theirs got passed like this, and that was done for a reason. It was just to create more division. That's
Right.
why the Republicans did it, because they want more divisions, and they want to hear me say things like, yeah, we like pooped on them. We really did whatever we did. That's all divisive. They don't care. The whole thing. The biggest thing is, will these things ever be enforced?
Yeah.
Are they enforceable? Acts are fine, but give me the judges. You know, we also need to have a different criteria for the people who are in place, these judges. How do you get to be a judge? From an appointment?
Yep.
We saw that. That means nothing to me. There are no King Herods up there. I mean, the reality is they didn't pass the George Floyd Act, and there's a problem with that, and they're not going to.
So Cinema
Not
Canella,
this term.
yeah, Cinema Canella saying nothing changed. Also says a few people are opening their eyes and double questioning police procedures, but sadly nothing has changed. I read it was interesting, and again, one of the few times I watched the news lately. What's his name? Don Lemon had a gentleman on who used to be part of the Bush administration, the elder Bush administration, and he brought up a very interesting point that in the American population, 30% of the American population are white Christian males, but 75% of leadership in politics and big business are white Christian males.
They're not Christians, though.
Well, allegedly.
They think they are, but they're not. If they are Christians, we should all just go set ourselves on fire, because they are people as equally as disgusting as the Christians during the Spanish Inquisition and all of that. That's what they subscribe to. And yeah, there's 30%. You know, this week on Twitter, someone made a comment we were talking about. They're afraid of being replaced. This is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I go undercover as a white girl, that's what I hear. Because they don't know. They don't know. I'm telling you, it's really crazy. And then when I bust it out on them, they go, you're not white? No, I'm not. So they'll start like, this is how stupid, you know, they think they're going to be replaced. People are upset with Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago because she won't give interviews to anybody but African-American journalists, so they say. But I'm here to tell you, I don't bend over backwards to do interviews for, not that I'm Mayor Lightfoot, but I'm kind of the same thing right now. They screw you over every interview. They chop up whatever they want. They've got it already in their minds. But I get her. But I think there needs to be more people like her. She's giving her business
Hashtag
to
undercover white woman.
Mm-hmm. They do not like it.
Chris is saying, watching the absolute horror of what happened to Ronald Green, this country has a long way to go.
Yeah.
I want to see indictments. And no, it's not enough that the scumbag deputy in Louisiana shown talking on the tape, admitting that he beat Mr. Green, has died. On this anniversary of Mr. Floyd's death, formal indictments in Louisiana would be quite befitting. That would not make things right by any means, but it might be a start.
I agree.
Here's one thing.
They should make sure his benefits are taken from his family and given to the family of Mr. Green, to his children. I don't think the family should benefit at all by that disgusting pig's life or his death. Sorry.
Here's the thing that you said, Jill, that really stuck out to me was that, you know, they could have stuck it in with the Asian American hate crime bill. It's very true they could have, because whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color.
Right.
And eventually white people too. That was the same with affirmative action. It ended up benefiting white women.
Well, because, you know, in that little pecking order, the Asians are still higher than Black people. White racist man, Derek Chauvin, has an Asian wife. You know, and sometimes they don't see it that way. They see that's, okay. But when it comes to
the model
Black people,
minority.
Yeah, exactly. And believe me, you can be racist and married to a minority or a person of color. Yes, you can have serious biases that you're unaware of. It's possible. And people need to stop copping out just because you got some grandkids. that are half Black or whatever, or half Spanish or Asian, you know, the ones who seem to have the biggest issues and just are the ones that just don't allow it. I mean, let's be honest. Why does New York still have buildings that don't allow Jewish people, let alone Black people? Why are country clubs? Why? Because it's private. Until they change that, then Twitter and everybody else can do whatever they want when they want to deplatform people. None of that's changed. You try to get into a co-op like that. See, here's my biggest problem with the killing of George Floyd, as far as what has, as Cinema had mentioned, people are awake on many levels. The dots are starting to get connected. We're starting to see the influence of money and the presence of those wasps that, you know, never let go and just tended their little gardens and went about plotting. The danger of them going and buying certain companies, paying these boards. The boards is where the bullshit is. That board stuff, that's where all it goes in the mix. You know, so what, and one day we'll talk more about this, but the fact with George Floyd is they didn't want to honor us or anybody. They didn't respect Black people enough to let us have our George Floyd, our act, before they gave the Asians the hate one, anti-hate. It's anti-hate against us too. It's not just Asians, but they rushed that through like you know what. And I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't be bringing it up because, you know, but it should have been against all people of color, just a hate law. Law. There's LGBT, you know, we have Matthew Shepard's laws, but
they still can't get the Emmett Till Act passed.
Exactly, and they can't get that. Exactly.
From 2007, yes.
Thank you. And that, to me, says everything. The fact that those two bills are still left hanging, that should make you spit on every single senator that you ever see.
Well,
I mean, honestly.
Well, even on
or spitting their food. Remember,
adding another layer,
or give them a chocolate pie, like the hell.
Yes,
right.
You know I would.
But still, even in some states in America, hanging is legal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Lynching is considered a crime in a lot of states, but not a hate crime. Yeah. And the definition of what is constituted as lynching is so narrow in these places that it doesn't classify anything that is a racially motivated crime. So two kids can be like, you can there's an example in South Carolina many years ago that where two kids or three kids jumped one child, and that was considered a lynching.
Oh, okay.
Right. But let's be honest, this was like a 2-week whirlwind campaign. We had all the Asians getting beaten up by people. They mobilized. I don't know what money was in on that.
You said a very important word.
Money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So before
they lobbied that and they got it done.
So Cinema Canela, ooh, the chocolate pie. And of course, Chris has to chime in. Hashtag pies by Jill Jones.
Well, I have been baking.
Thank you very much. That's why I thought he'd come in on that.
It's either that or Sweeney Todd pies for me. Okay. You know, I don't know. Just, you know,
razor blades. I
had enough. Yeah.
Well, folks, thanks for another epic conversation. As I said, we usually end off with the this episode's cockroach, but I didn't think it was really fitting to have that in based on Marvin Gaye's anniversary of what's going on and the 1-year anniversary after the killing of George Floyd. Just one quick last thing from both ladies. Is America any better 1 year later?
No, we have to keep fighting. Okay. We have to put our Harriet Tubman hats on and our Sojourner Truth. We have to keep going because those ancestors, and actually I do believe we have to call on them more to give us more of to keep fighting. It hasn't changed. It's not going to change until we stop asking the question, has it changed?
No.
Good point. Aisha?
It hasn't changed. I think it has opened some people's eyes, but that's still not enough to drive change, because somewhere along the way, we have to be able to put enough pressure on these politicians to either, bleep or get off the pot. Either you're going to put these acts through, you're going to help us, or you're going to move out the way.
Because here's the thing. It's like, if you're not challenging statements or people or conversations, when there are things being said that are patently racist, then you're on the side of racism. If you don't challenge it, it's very simple. It's like, I used to watch The View a lot, and I don't anymore, because ABC is looking for ratings with Meghan McCain. And the reality is she's spreading misinformation, disinformation, and they need to fact check her. There are people that will always try to get over on their things to get over without contentious, but you need to call people out on the carpet for the claims that they make, because we have a very important responsibility right now. It's to shut down bullshit with facts. And we really need to, sorry for swearing, but we really need
You're just
to
apologizing
always take the opportunity. Yeah. We have to shut things down that way. We have to disrupt the disruption. And sitting and ignoring and pretending and changing the channel, it's not going away, because they will not stop. Like I said,
that's why they're successful.
Yeah, but we need to be
Persistence.
equally as persistent back, and
Well,
we have to.
Here's the other thing, is that if it were going to change, if we were on the path of change, January 6th would have never happened after George Floyd. If we had been pushing for, we had been getting the changes that we needed, that kind of insurrection would not have happened. That insurrection was a direct response to the fact that you had Black and brown people and other people united behind eradicating this kind of thing and eradicating racism. And you have white people who, predominantly white men, like you said, who are out here saying, no, we want things to remain the same. We want to remain in power. We want to, this is our government. This is our America. This is not yours. You're treated equally. And they proved that point by scaling the chambers of Congress.
But here's the craziest part of all, is that we have a system that our news programs, our cable news programs, only parrot what they're reading on Twitter. They're not making news anymore. I attended this panel this week about disrupting racism. And one of the biggest things was understanding the technology. And there is a potential, like with Twitter is contemplating the subscription premium model. And some people are like, well, it might get rid of bots. It might do this. Some people are like, I'm not going to do that. But here's the thing. You've got to remember all of this misinformation, when it kind of came out after TV, after the phone, radio, TV, none of it. And now they had to scale with the internet. The problem is that they were not able to regulate any of it. It just, if someone was lying, if they were doing this, and the data would prove that certain people were getting their information not from the Daily News anymore. So in order for someone like Fox to exist in this system, they have to be over the top shenanigans. And it's almost like it's entertainment. There's something so ghoulish about what Americans find lies and killings and murders actually entertaining. It justifies their sad, pathetic lives in that armchair that they choose to sit in while they're watching. But the biggest thing with these storage things that are with these subscriptions coming up is it should indicate that there's storage issues going on inside our little internet world. Storage to make everything accessible to all of us at the same time. So money. And it will also remove them of having to get paid like they did for the elections. They went crazy. Donald Trump sunk so much money into all the elections, to all the platforms, social media. Facebook couldn't even, they got up out of water, because their biggest thing is, how do we manage our content and how do we store it? It costs money. That's it. It's going to cycle through. but it was a big step. If Jack does it on Twitter, that means he's changing the game a little bit for all of them. And I advise people to get the subscriptions just because it doesn't make some of these companies as beholden to election things and politics. They've got to cut that off. It was dangerous what happened. And watching George Floyd get killed and murdered, and it didn't affect the change in this country is a really, I don't know how we're actually able to look at one another.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, we will end it off. The power of the algorithm. We must talk about that one in one of our conversations coming up. The power of the algorithm. As always, I'd like to thank everyone who watched live tonight. Got some comments here. Chris, thank you for another great evening. All the best to you. Blessings. Jen, thank you. Also, great conversations tonight is also saying that. Cinema Canella, thank you. Who else joined us? Black Beauty, as always, regulars. We also had Natalia. I think it's the first time she joined in. Thank you for joining in. We like to thank you folks. And remember, we are looking for your input for a new name. So what should we name the show going forward? We need and like your takes. Email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com or DM me on Instagram at the drvibeshow.com or via Twitter at drvibe show. Someone else has got a comment here. Stay safe, everyone. Very much agree. Cinnamon Canala. Jill, you did it again.
Well, Chris, I might have a poltergeist at this point.
If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Jill D. Jones at Twitter. You can DM me.
That is the best way. And then we have Aisha.
At Aisha Staggers on Twitter. And you can check out my Instagram page, which is AK Staggers.
Got it. Fantastic. So we are on to me, the Dr. Vibe. Best way to get a hold of me, the drvibeshow.com. Again, host and producer of this epic conversation, also host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. I'm the host of Epic Conversations. It's a home of Epic Conversations. 2020 Best Podcast News 2018 Innovation Award given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Host of the only online show in the world for fathers and dads. That is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dads Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and I'm the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative. It's a multimedia not-for-profit that spotlights Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. I'd like to thank everyone who listened to us tonight and also watch us tonight live and also watching or listen to us on the replay. We'll be back next week. All things being good and safe, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Tell your friends. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and on Facebook. And as I said, we are making changes to make this better. First of all, we got to change the name, folks, though. First thing we got to do is change the name. We can change the name, then we can get everything else going on. So, as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourselves grace. Be well, everybody.